Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're walking in Memphis. The topic of this walking in Memphis, USWA from February 25th, 1995. Now before we get into the show, if you want to watch the video that I'm going to review for this episode, it is down here in the description. Pause this video, go check that out, then come back. Or if you don't care about spoilers, watch this and then go watch that. With that being said, if you haven't seen my videos before, I grade everything on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. Let's jump right in. We start the show with something that was very emotional to me because he was one of my favorite wrestlers at the time. We get a tribute to Eddie Gilbert, who had passed away the week before. And even now, 27 years later, you kind of feel it tug, because this was a guy, 1995, I was 18 years old. This is a guy at that point I had been watching for a decade, and he was one of my favorites. I loved his stuff in CWA, USWA. I loved his stuff in Mid-South and the UWF, his stuff in WCW. Early ECW, I really loved him. And he was a guy I was drawn to because his character was so great. And it kind of, even now, it tugs at me just even talking about this. Seeing that, it brought up a lot of memories, a lot of really good ones. Kind of touched me a little bit seeing that in the beginning. And if you haven't seen before, we grade everything by segment. So everything's going to be kind of packed together here. After that, we go to Reggie B. Fine, who says, and that was the first segment. I'm not going to give that a grade because it's too sentimental. After that, we get Reggie B. Fine, who comes out and says they're going to have a Miss USWA pageant today between Miss Texas, aka Jacqueline, Susan Sapphire, who was added by Eddie Marlin. They keep bringing that up, and Sweet Georgia Brown. They start off with an evening gown. I guess not a match, but an evening gown. I don't know what you would call it. Like if you ever seen the Miss USA or Miss America pageant where they come out and who looks best in the evening gown, I guess is the point of it. The crowd's firmly behind Miss Texas here. From that, we go right into our first match of the show for the USWA Championship. Jerry Lawler defending against Bill Dundee. This is probably the quintessential USWA Memphis CWA feud there is. Lawler and Dundee went back and forth for decades as both friends and enemies, and this is just another great match in their history. This is given plenty of time. Dundee does pick up the win here. Afterwards, him and Lawler talking at the desk with Dave Brown and Lance Russell, and Dundee agrees to give Lawler the first defense. Lawler walks away, then comes out Big Daddy Cyrus, who says, wait, I want the first defense. Dundee says, I can't give it to you, I promised it to Lawler, which brings out Crusher Bones. They both attack Dundee, which brings Lawler back out to run off the heels. All of that was fantastic. I'm giving that a 5 between the pageant parts, Lawler and Dundee, which did go over one commercial into a next part of the show. But since it was a continuation, we'll consider that all one thing. Again, I'm giving that part a 5. Next up, we have the swimsuits part of the pageant, and I'll just say it. All the women look fantastic here. They're all beautiful women. They all look great in a swimsuit. If I was going to be honest here, and I know Miss Jacqueline's the face, and that's who it's being built for, I would have probably gave it to Sweet Georgia Brown. I think she looked the best, just looking the best. And that's my personal opinion. They're all beautiful. They're all beautiful women, don't get me wrong. I would have gave it to Sweet Georgia Brown. Plus, she did a splits in it, which, I mean, that's impressive. Neither of the other two girls did it, so that's just me. I know she's a heel, and I know that the fans are not going to back her, but just my opinion. From that, we get highlights of a match with PG-13, JC Ice and Wolfie D, going up against Tommy Wildfire Rich and Gorgeous George III, which, if you're familiar with late era WCW, is also the Maestro. They show highlights, PG-13 winning, and then breaking Tommy Rich's arm with a baseball bat, which Rich brought into the match. Going from that, we get Rich at the announce table with Big Bruiser Brown, or Big Business Brown. I don't know why I call him Big Bruiser. Talking about what happened, which brings him right into a match with him and Wolfie D. The match breaks down between him and Wolfie D. Gorgeous George III gets involved, JC Ice gets involved, and Tommy Rich's mom comes out and brings spray paint out of her bag, and they spray paint Wolfie D's back yellow. All that was fantastic. I'm going to give that a 5. And I guess Wolfie D won because the heels were the first ones to get involved. Either that or the whole thing was thrown out. Then we go into the finals. We announce the winner of the Miss USWA pageant, which of course is Jacqueline, Miss Texas. The other two attack her. Then they get ran off by Lawler and Brian Christopher, which goes right into a promo with PG-13 talking about a spray paint match that they're going to have with Tommy Rich and Gorgeous George III, which will happen, I believe, at the Mid-South Coliseum that Monday. Loser gets spray painted. They talk about that they're the kings of graffiti. Just another, I like PG-13 and I love the absurdity of it. And I think that they were in on the joke that they're two guys that didn't really know how to talk like they were from quote-unquote the hood, but were using like quote-unquote hood tropes. And I have to believe that they were in on the fact that it was very much tongue-in-cheek. I think, at least Wolfie, I would think. JC Ice, Jamie Dundee, he may have fully believed his character was what it should have been. But to me, they were always a parody of rap and gangster rap. For the finals, for that day in promo, I'm giving it a 5. We go into a recap of the show pretty quick. We get a lot of our show was taken up by the Lawler and Dundee match. Again, I thought it was a fantastic show from top to bottom. I'm giving this whole thing a 5. I thought it was really great. I definitely recommend you checking it out. And if you made it to the end, let's smash that like button, comment, share, subscribe. If you made it to the end, let's give a shout out to Wolfie D in the comments, because Jamie Dundee said some things that are pretty reprehensible, but PG-13 was a great tag team, and I don't want to hold it against Wolfie D, so let's give Wolfie D a shout out in the comments. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and we've been walking in Memphis.